Watch your step. Watch your step.
Wait, stop. Everyone move more this way.
Don't let go yet. There you go. Keep going, Robin, out for them, okay? Why don't we go down right here on this side by the chairs? Let's go come this way. Let's all come this way.
Just chill enough outside now.
Just stand there so people can see you. Over there, where
Don't touch the microphone.
Don't touch the microphone.
Don't touch the microphone. Right now? Shira malo Zaniari Nimi Abuzri Zimi Maruna Seshamai Modes Ayatin Lamodak Laka Num Shamraka Ine Lo Yinu Isha Shema Yisrael Anai Shamraka Anai Tilkaka Yad Yadinaka Yama Shemesh Legaka Yarek Lelaida Adonai Shmaraka Ikora Ishmar Esnav Shaka Adonai Shmor Tezka Lecha Miatav Yad Olam. After glass, that's the glass.
We all know on Wednesday we get a call in the morning, and like every time something has happened, we assume that it'll be short, things will turn around. And I'll get back to normal. And of course, the worst thing with COVID, nobody could go in. They wouldn't let us in. And we had no idea what would be. And thank God Riva was able to come immediately. And everybody came, and by Wednesday night, we found out that the COVID was negative, and thank God they opened the doors, and the girls were able to be inside in the room. Ma, you always knew what you wanted. You always made it clear. And you knew how to motivate us to do what it is that you wanted us to do. The last 41 hours of your life, it was just as if you were alive, telling us exactly what you wanted every step of the way. Just your sheer willpower, your desires. We knew exactly, everybody knew what they needed to do. In this time, being in such a critical condition, we were stuck in time. Time moved so fast and it moved so slow. It gave us a special moment. The children were able to all get on Zoom and sing Shema. And we all even had a moment to call and speak our hearts and ask Mechila and tell you about everything that we were so appreciative for in you. And of course today we were able to ask for Mechila our last time, as for myself and for the entire family. Ma's passion in life was teaching. She taught young kids in a way that was extremely special. They were able to pay attention, to sit, to be captivated by her. She made up songs about the Parsha and poems. She was able to do projects, all kinds of things that had a lasting impact. Pearl reminded me of a story that Mrs. Miriam Kamenetsky was in town walking the halls of the school and heard Ma's voice teaching and ran into the room, and she said, "I'll never forget the voice of my first grade teacher," and was so appreciative of everything that she had taught her and she remembered from way back in Borough Park. About a year ago, I was at home with her and one of her friends, a teacher who's been teaching for decades, came to the house and she was talking to her and she says, "You have to tell us your secret. We're here, the kids won't listen, they won't pay attention, we don't know what to do. How did you do it? You gotta tell us your secret." She didn't tell her secret, but I think we know her secret. Like I said in the beginning, she had a way to motivate and to be able to be sure to get her will across in a very strong way. She had volunteered a lot. She was very active in the community, we know. Of course, on Mozart, it was like the community within the community. A small block that had so many people. Her greatest friends were very, very close to her for her entire life. She would cook a Sheva brachas for an entire block the same way she would cook a meal for her family at home. And the friendships that she forged were extremely strong. Her friends came when she was sick. They saw her all the time. Even, thank God, we had Paula, and she became really part of the family and a close friend to Ma, and helped her so much. Ma reached out, and she did volunteering in a way where Erev Pesach, Erev Yontif, her whole home was turned into a place where the entire community, whoever needed, would come. She volunteered that in order for people to be not be embarrassed, have boxes of food dropped to their houses and their neighbors would see. She was a collection station. People would come and discreetly take what they needed, so they weren't embarrassed by the boxes being left in their homes. The last 4 or 5 years were extremely, extremely difficult. Just things got worse and worse. Sometimes, Ma, I could hear the words you would say to me. Why is Hashem making me suffer like this? She couldn't work anymore. It was her whole life at that time. And when she stopped and wasn't able to walk, it was everything changed, and it changed very fast. There were some times she would turn to me and say, "My life was difficult enough. I don't need all this." And despite all that, whatever she went through, thank God, she raised 4 beautiful girls who are devoted and dedicated to Torah and mitzvahs. And she has her beautiful grandchildren, and this really was the essence of what she wanted to be involved with in her last days and in her last time. Over and over, she would express anything for Shabbos. No matter how bad something was, she was in the hospital, she was in a nursing home, she was assisted living, she was in her own home. She wanted to know, she wanted to be with the grandkids, she wanted to do what she could, have people come and see her and be around, know what was going on in their lives. So always happy to be on the phone with anybody and talking and visiting, anything to know about the kids. But it was my directive. If Tuesday rolled around, I would hear, "What's going to be for Shabbos?" Wednesday, "What's going to be for Shabbos?" Am I going to be stuck here? And we all worked tirelessly to be sure, to a degree where we had hospital administrators, nursing home administrators, doctors, nurses jumping through hoops, finding ways to be sure that they understood for her mental health, for her spiritual health, for her well-being, it was extremely important that she needed to be home for Shabbos, and we would find ways some of them very courageous in their ability to make the kind of decisions that would be impossible in any other circumstance. And they did, because she wanted to be back at home and wanted to have Shabbos. There was one situation, we were in the hospital, and of course she has her strong Brooklyn accent, and she was being extremely stubborn I don't remember if it was taking an IV or pills or whatever it may have been, but she was going to have it her way, and she was not going to do it. Whatever it was the doctors wanted her to do, she wasn't going to have it. And a nurse was standing there, and she turned to her and she says, "Where in New York are you from?" And she says, "Brooklyn." She says, "I'm from Brooklyn. You know what? In Brooklyn, we don't take any garbage. Nobody tells us what to do." And all of a sudden, her whole demeanor changed. This was Bobby. Ma, she had to be in control. She had to know what was going on. She had to have the choice. She had to have the ability. And as soon as you told her, it's up to you, you decide, then you would do whatever it was that we needed to do. In the very last moments, we knew what you wanted. You knew what you wanted. You wanted your girls there with you. You wanted to see them. You wanted to hear them laughing and crying and fighting over how to best care for you and what to do. And you got them there. We learned that near the time of death, the Shekhinah is sitting, God's presence, right above the head of the bed. And we all heard it. We know what happened. In those very last moments, Ma was able to transcend herself, and she could see what was going on in that room. She could hear it. She could see her parents, those deceased that were waiting for her to take her to the next place, to the Olam Oemes. And I believe she could see from looking through that Shekhinah, she get a sense of what was all this pain, what was the purpose, what was the meaning of her whole life. And she could understand, looking back at the generations before her and looking forward at the generations in front of her, what her place was and what her purpose was. And she came back and she gave us a smile. A clear smile. Despite all the pain, it was peace. She left in peace, and she left us with the message to be in peace with each other, to be in peace with the world. Her soul should be bound eternally. Bila mavis lo netzach umacho Adonai Elohim dimo me'al panim. He who has concealed death forever, and the Lord God shall wipe away the tears off of every face.
Last night,
I was talking to my children, kids, and I wanted them to tell me what they remember. Bobby. Shmuley said how he remembered all the times that Bobby would ask him, talk to him about what was going on in his life. Talk to him about what he did, and he at the time was into origami, and Bobby would start sending her paper in the mail. Just go and ask, can you bake some? Send it back to me, and she showed it to her class. And those are the type of things that Bobby did to each of our kids. Fake used to say how when we'd come for Pesach or Sukkot, she'd ask, like, what songs, what did you learn in school? And she'd want to hear, and she showed a general interest in each of the kids, their education, because that was what she was. She was a teacher. I had asked to speak because Reef and I have been out of town now for almost 20 years, and I wanted to thank the people that were able to do the things these past 4 or 5 years that we weren't able to do. Paula, she took care of her. She knew everything about Bobby. Whenever she needed something, she knew exactly how to convince Bobby to do what she needed to do, to care for Bobby, do the things that we weren't able to do. And then Carol and David, you cared for Bobby. In the beginning, it was Shabbos meals, walking Bobby back and forth. But as Bobby wasn't able to do more, you were always there. You were always taking care of her. The more, whatever it was, the more it took of your time. Never, okay, I can't do this anymore. Every single day, the amount of time that had to be devoted for the past years. We can't thank you enough. I remember when my father passed away, the time we got to spend right beforehand. And it's the things we remember for years. And I was thinking how it was Yaakov Avinu who was my spouse. So there would be a time that everyone could say goodbyes. And when Riva was flying off, I was so afraid. I was so afraid she wouldn't be able to go and be there for those last couple minutes to be able to say goodbye. The 2 days they were able to spend there, things that you can never make up.
Mrs. Weine's father, you all know, was from the founders of the Beis Yaakov in Borough Park. And that was in the early days when you didn't have many educational institutions for women. But he understood that in America, it was very necessary. In Europe, girls could have been brought up in the houses, in the kitchens, but in America, that would never work. And Beis Yaakov in Borough Park was, I was told, the largest day school with Jewish children. And in a sense, that pioneering spirit, I think, is what inspired his daughter to become a teacher, and to be a special type of teacher. I remember when one time I was talking with her about the different methods of education, and she said, to reach children today, you have to use different approaches. And she mentioned that when she was teaching, I don't know if it was in her regular class or as a substitute, it was younger children, and there was even I don't know why a pet was there. I think it was a cat. And to get the children involved, she said she put the cat on her lap. And these were not methods of chinuch that were used in Europe, but she understood to inspire children. It's not enough. You can't just bring children into your world. You have to go into their world and then bring them out into your world. And this was a special talent that she had, that she was able to go into the world of the children that she was teaching. And this was based on the Masorah. It wasn't just something she thought of, but this was based on the Masorah that she received from her father, from her parents. And it's interesting, Torah tells us about the Mishkan, that there were two kruvim on the side of the Aron, two human figures. And one pasuk says, Upneihem mishalachiv, that they faced each other. And the other pasuk says, Upneihem mishalabayis, they faced the walls of the Mishkan. They did not face each other. And there are two terutzim given in the Medrash, but one teretz is, Kan osin ritzono shamakom, kan ein osin ritzono shamakom. That when the Jewish people were doing the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so then the two human figures faced each other. But when they weren't doing the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they faced the walls of the Mishkan. And it's very strange that facing the walls of the Mishkan should be a sign of Ein Osin Ritzono Shamakom, not doing the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the truth is, whichever way you look, you face the walls of the Mishkan. The question is, which wall? You can face the walls of the Mishkan and face Ishal Ochiv, and you could turn your back on Ochiv and face the other wall of the Mishkan. And very often what happens, that because we look at the walls of the Mishkan, we look at the Bein Adam L'Makom, we use that as an excuse not to be concerned about the Bein Adam L'Chaveiro. And on one hand, Mrs. Weine, I remember she was so nizar, very careful. Let's say when she'd be in the hospital, when she would be in the nursing home, and they would serve her a kosher meal. It was a fleishik meal, and there was the person put a bottle of milk on the tray. So, and listen, I've been in the hospital, unfortunately, a number of times, and I can't remember a meal that I got that didn't have that problem. But she was concerned, maybe there's something wrong with the meal. The person can't be trusted. What that showed Yiras Shamayim. That was Pneihem Ishal Abayis, but it was with her, it was also Ishal Achiv. The chesed she did was unbelievable. The chesed she did was unbelievable. In this week's Sedra, the Torah starts off about the Malachim. Avram didn't realize at first that they were Malachim that came. And then the Torah tells us about Sarah B'hinei Ba'ohel. And then the Torah tells us how Avram pleads on behalf of Sdom. What's going on? But I think the previous Sedra concludes with Bris Milah, the physical sign of a Jew. But besides the physical signs of a Jew, there are also the signs of a Jew of character signs of a Jew. Rachmanim, Baishanim, Gomle Chasadim. Doing kindness. That the Avos demonstrated. Avram demonstrated. This was the physical sign of a Jew. Avram saw 3 people going into the desert. He didn't realize they were malachim. He runs. The chesed that he does. And then Sarah, V'hinei Bohel, to Baishan, modesty. And then Rachmanim, he pleads on behalf of the people of Sdom. And we could say, when it came to Gemilas Chesed, she would constantly be trying to help out people. It's interesting, the Das Genim Balatosva says, Kechom Hayom, this was the time when people eat their meal. It's almost as if Avram couldn't start his meal unless he could find somebody to give food to. It's not that there was somebody passing by that he saw that needed food. He stood outside the Ohel because he couldn't eat his food until someone passed by, till he could find somebody. And this was her, I remember Pesach time. She couldn't start Pesach until she gave out food. I remember she would call me. It wasn't someone she saw. Do you know anybody I could give food to? This was the Mid of Avram standing outside. You see somebody who's in unfortunate circumstances, that shows Rachmanis. But Gomle Chasadim is much more than that. You're looking for somebody. You're looking to give. You feel this need to give. And she had this need to give. And then everybody knew what a special teacher she was. But she never started saying, I'm a special teacher. She never was interested in getting rewards for being a teacher. There was a certain degree of modesty in her accomplishments as a teacher. And she always showed Rachmanis. There was a lady I know that they really was suffering, and she would constantly call, and she would call me to ask me to look in on the person, to talk to the person. Why? Because she had Rachmanis for a person who found themselves in unfortunate circumstances. And in this week's Sedra, Torah says, Ki Yedativ, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says he loves Avram. Why? Sheyitzave es banav es beisu achrav es shamru derech Hashem. And the question is, what does it mean? Yitzave es banav es beisu achrav, after him. What does it mean after him? So the pashtus, the simple explanation is, after him, he tells them how to act after he's gone. But I heard from my father another explanation. Achrav is after him by his example. And when it comes to midos, when it comes to these characteristic traits of concern for other people, helping other people out, it wasn't just what she said, it's what she did. And the two explanations of Achrav have to be taken together. Because if it's just something that's said, after the person's gone, no one is saying it anymore. But if it's Achrav by the example, then that lesson remains forever. And in a sense, just as she had a Masorah from her parents, you have a Masorah from her. It's Achareha. She demonstrated this midas, the teaching, the chinuch, that's also part of the Masorah. But the Masorah of the character traits of trying to help people out, of helping students, of getting into their world. You know, when the teachers sometimes, they don't want to get into the students' world. They consider themselves above it. But if a person is modest, then they have no trouble in getting to the world of their students and then coming out of that. And this is the, in a sense, the main Yerusha that she's giving over to you. That's the Yerusha of Achareha. These traits that she had, that she demonstrated through her lifetime. Okay, we'll do Kriya. Okay. Stay dynamic. You have to stand up.
I'll tell her. Yeah, they're moving. I'll show you what you do. You have a show in you? You got a show? Or you want a show? You go on the left side, go to the top of it.
Wait, make the back up first.
I'll do it with you.
You make the broccoli up.
No, when you kill.
No.
Three we go first. And on this side over there, start to the top. Just start it and then don't make it up. More.
Yeah. What? Yeah, come on. Yeah. We'll do, you want to do come over beforehand? Okay, we can do it either way. Okay, that's what he said. Okay. Well, you have with the father's name? Yeah, you have the book, you have the card? I'll say the tzedek. Well, we can do the Kelmoli afterwards. Okay, go ahead. Lower the cake. Lower the cake.
Yes, they did.
We'll do the Kelmoli afterwards. Yeah.
Give him the phone. Give him the red phone.
It's in the trunk, okay?
I don't want him to go by himself.
Why not? Here. Everything's right here.
Did you give him the phone? No.
Okay, we'll do the.
Those who are going to do shoveling, you have gloves. Please put on the gloves so we don't pass any, if we have any diseases. So we put on a side at a time, just wear gloves. We have plastic gloves there for those that want to do the shoveling, and go ahead.
Take a pile and just dump it in there. Do as much dirt as much as you want until you're ready.
Just need it. Nobody has taken it. Oh, I forgot. So it's wants me to zoom around.
Indeed.
Well, we can see. Yeah, right now, 143 is the height of 180. You can see who's on also. You can scroll up and down.
Look at that. Okay, good.
Unmuted. You're unmuted. So get on your scale over.
Are you sure it's muted?
Yes.
Oh my God, Bernie! No, he didn't. Not a problem, Rana.
El Molarachamim, Shochem, Bamromim, Mamsei Menucha Nechon Kanfei Ashchina, Bamalos, Kdoshim Matorim, Kazor Rakia, Mazhirim, Es Nishmas, Miriam Leia, Bas Yisrael Dov, Shahol Chololamo, Babur, Shanachnu Mispalim Badas Kars Nishmasa, Beganedim Tehei Menuchasa, Lachem Balarachami, Aster Ebeses Knafav Lolamim, Yitzror B'tzorach Haimish Nishmasa, Denoh Nachalasa, the Sanuach V'Shalom Mishkava B'Nomar Amen. I'll say a parak to Helen and then they'll say the Kaddish, but it'll Shir Mihamalos Mimamakim Krasicha Adinoi Adinoi Shema B'Koli Tianos Necha Kashuvos L'Kol Chatachanoi Im Avanos Tishma Ya Adinoi Miyamod Ki Imcha Haslicha L'man Tivarei Kivisi Adinoi Kivsha Nafshi V'Lidvaro HaCholti Nafshi L'Adinoi Mishomrim Laboker Shomrim Laboker Yachel Yisrael El Adonai Kim Adonai HaChesed B'Habei Mofdus V'Hu Yivtesh Yisrael Mikol Avanosav. Wait.
This way.
Where I'm facing.
Yes.
Iskadel Iskadesh Mehraba Yamadi Dihu Asin Lis Hadosha Ulachayo Mesayil Asuka Lachayelmo Umifne Karto Jerusalem Uchachlil Heichalo Heichale Begave Lemakar Pulchono Nuchroa Me'ar O Vilasova Pulchono Dishmaya Lasroi Yamlich Uchabrihu Kamalchuse Vikare V'chayechon v'yomechon u'chayed chobes Yisrael Ba'agolo b'zman koriv v'imir omein Yehi shemei rabo m'vorach le'olam lomei ulmaya Yisparach v'yishtabach v'yisboer v'yisramam v'yisnasei V'yisador v'yisalev v'yisalol shemei hikudesha b'richu Le'ilam in kol b'richosa v'shirasa Tushbuchosa v'nechamosa Damiron b'yalma v'imir omein Yehi shalom arabu min shemaya V'chayim tovim aleinu v'yalko Yisrael v'imru amen Oza shalom v'imromov V'yasa shalom aleinu v'yalko Yisrael v'imru amen
Amen. We can have the extended family form an aisle leading away from the grave so we could offer the needed morning hamakam. Also for those on Zoom, the Shiva times and the phone numbers to call each of the Veilim are on our website, and that all that information is on there. This is not mine. Stephanie, whose is this?
That's fine.
If we can all form an aisleway right here, then have the Balaam come through. So all the children and come this way, watch the gravy.
You have to take off your shoes. You have to just take off your shoes.
You told me to do it in the car.
In the car, just take it over in the car. You don't do it in the cemetery. Give me that paper.
It's never supposed to walk barefoot over.
I wouldn't walk barefoot.
Do it now?
No, I know. Come this way.